Hello friends, my name is Muddiness and I am recapping House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas chapter by chapter. I'm really doing this over on TikTok. I recap things in different places. I used to do it all the time over on Snark Squad. I'm currently doing written recaps of A Court of Thorns and Roses for my patrons over on Patreon. And this year I decided to try out TikTok as a format for recapping. So essentially I'm just reading through and recapping back to you guys what is happening with commentary. Chapters 1 to 16 are already up, so if you're just coming across this, you can catch up with the first 16 chapters, and here is the next handful. This is chapter 17. Our fortifying beverage for the chapter is a peach smoothie. We pick up right where we left off with Bryce nudging Hunt into oncoming traffic. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. Ha ha ha. Into oncoming traffic. Bryce pulls a piece of paper out of her pocket and hands it over to Hunt, and he's like, "What's this?" And she's like, "My list of suspects." Hunt's like, "When did you make this?" And she's like, "Last night on the couch." And this is being delivered as like a aha moment, like she did make the list of suspects all along. Oh my God, what a twist. Can you believe it? We've been talking about a list of suspects for 10 chapters now, and all along she made it. Hunt is like, "When were you going to tell me that you made this?" And Bryce is like, "After you spent a whole day assuming I was a dumb, vapid female, more interested in getting my nails done than solving this case." And Hunt is like, "You did get your nails done." But she explains that she actually looked up Maximus because despite whatever Micah said, she knows for a fact that Danica didn't know Maximus, that they weren't connected. And she knows this because she looked up Maximus's profile on Spark, which is the fantasy dating site, and through there she was able to locate Maximus's girlfriend, and the girlfriend worked at the nail salon, so that's what she was actually doing at the nail salon. Bryce had a chance to question the nail tech girlfriend, and through her found out that Maximus definitely didn't know Danica, or else like the girlfriend would have known about it, and the closest connection that they actually did have was through the Viper Queen. So Danica knew the Viper Queen and Maximus also knew the Viper Queen. Hunt wants to go through the proper channels to contact the Viper Queen, and Bryce is like, "Bend the rules, live a little," but he won't, so she's like, "Fine." Hunt brings up the fact that Bryce pulled Rune into their business, but Bryce also did this super strategically because she thinks that Rune is going to turn around and talk to the Autumn King about it, and then they can follow the Autumn King and see like how he reacts. Bryce says that she was going to tell Hunt everything this morning at the nail salon, but then he bit her head off. I am so annoyed at this. I am so annoyed at this because the thing is that by not using her words for whatever freaking reason that she has to be like so antagonistic towards Hunt and like, you know, keep him in the dark or whatever, where the readers are also being kept in the dark. So we also had to sit there and suffer through her being like, "Alyssa suspects, never," and like sitting on her couch and getting her nails done. So the fact that she's like, all along, I was doing things, that's no fun for me as a reader. And it just goes to highlight for me that this whole antagonist to lovers thing that is being set up feels so hollow to me. I honestly don't know why she's acting this way. Why is she being this way? They finally get back to Bryce's building and she goes inside and Hunt jumps up on his roof on the building opposite. There's some exposition here again about how the city is ruled and how they all coexist and how powerful some of the Fae are, that they could raise hell when provoked. But Bryce isn't looking to raise hell tonight. I feel like the more that Sarah J Maas tries to explain the organization and power structure of the city or whatever, like the less I understand it. And because honestly, I'm just now tuning it out. I don't... How many info dumps do I have to sit through about how the city is organized and like the heads of power? It's too many. Bryce waits 30 minutes before getting ready to go back out again. She keeps the light and the television on to make it look like she's still inside, and she closes the curtain enough to block Hunt's view of her front door. Bryce sneaks downstairs and grabs her scooter from the alleyway and then heads off to the meat market, which is where the Viper Queen is. We get like a page of description of driving in the lights of the city, and then some description of the market when she gets there. She parks her scooter and like stands by it and waits, and a second later Hunt lands and he tells her, "I'm going to kill you." That was one door, 2 hells and 7 M dashes. Wow, what a treat that was. My least favorite M dash of the chapter is: the Autumn King was a courtesy title in addition to her father's role as city head. As for all the 7 Fae Kings. I honestly, it took me reading that sentence 2, maybe 3 times to figure out that she meant that all of the Fae Kings titles were courtesy titles. Because in addition to her father's role as a city head, and then as for all the 7 Fae Kings, I was expecting like, I don't know, girl, I don't know. I think I've already said enough about how annoying I found it that she was like, I was investigating all along. I'm stuck in this terrible cycle where it annoys me so freaking much that Hunt thinks that Bryce is stupid, but then Bryce keeps acting in really stupid ways, and I'm like, yeah, she is. So none of it makes me feel good inside. This is chapter 18. Our fortifying beverage for the chapter is still a peach smoothie. When we last left off, Hunt was really mad because Bryce snuck out of her apartment, but Hunt knew that immediately because he could smell her as soon as she stepped out the back door. Bryce gets all sassy and checks her imaginary watch and says he's 2 minutes late, indicating that she knew all along he was going to sniff her out. Hunt continues to be mad. Bryce continues to gloat. She leaves behind her scooter, and Hunt doesn't think it's going to last there without getting stolen, but Bryce thinks that Hunt made a big enough show landing all growly and murdery so that like nobody's gonna want to steal the scooter after they saw Big Bad Murder Angel. Bryce heads towards one of the open doors as Hunt grumbles behind her that he told her to follow the proper protocols to contact the Viper Queen, but Bryce says she's not here to contact the Viper Queen. Hunt says that he's really getting tired of all this, and so Bryce bares her teeth, which is a description that I personally hate, and she says that she's sorry if his fragile ego can't handle that she knows what she's doing. Hunt admits that he did misjudge her earlier today, which I don't know that that's my interpretation of events. But anyways, Bryce continues through the open door. We get a bunch of description of the market, and it becomes clear that Bryce knows her way around the market. They climb some steps to a mezzanine that is like flanked by doors. Bryce is counting doors and pauses outside a pea green door. Hunt sniffs to see if he can tell what's on the other side, but then Bryce just opens the door and Hunt shuts the door. They enter a rickety shop with lots of broken furniture and bowls of salt of different kinds and colors. Salts are for protection against dark powers, and Hunt thinks fucking hell because he's never seen such an assortment of salt. Bryce peers down a hallway that has 3 more doors, and as Hunt starts to ask for an explanation, Bryce tells him to just keep his snarling and eye-rolling to himself. Another door opens and a satyr comes out. That was page 203. All the blue is doors. Hunt can tell that the satyr is scared, but not of him. Bryce asks him for obsidian salt, and so he gets really nervous and says the obsidian salt is illegal. Hunt is scanning the room and tells us what each salt is used for, but he forgets what the hell red salt is for, but he knows that obsidian salt is bad news. Then we get an explanation of what hell is, and the fact that it is severed from their world in space and time, but there are access points in the North and South Pole, and somebody can use obsidian salt to basically summon a demon. Demons that have been summoned from hell reproduce usually by force with humans, and they form the Demonaki, which are hybrids in contrast to the purebred demons in hell. A purebred demon fresh out of hell could bring an entire city to a standstill if it went on a rampage. As she continues to negotiate, Bryce's amber eyes gleam with feral amusement. Bryce threatens to call the Viper Queen if the satyr doesn't deal with her, and then she also threatens him with Jessica's goons, who will knock on his door if he doesn't give her the salt for a good price. This goes on for 2 pages as the satyr sweats and Bryce plays it cool and is like, you've got a minute to get me my stuff. And then right as time runs out, the satyr is like, okay, I'll give it to you. You know, dramatic interpretations are all that's keeping me engaged, and I almost said alive. Is that dramatic? I don't know. The satyr brings out the dark obsidian, and Bryce is like, it better be exactly the amount I asked for. And he's like, dark hell, it is! Bryce transfers him the money they agreed on. She opens the door, and she and Hunt walk straight into the Viper Queen. That was 9 pages, 12 doors, 7 hells, 25 M dashes, and 1 special colored eyes. My least favorite M dash of the chapter is Bryce opened the door, not bothering to knock, revealing flickering candles and brine. So dramatic. I'm at the point where I need this to get either a lot worse or a lot better, because right now it's just like boringly bad. And I'm trying to give entertainment, but I don't have a ton of material to work with here. Give me something. My God, we have so much more book to go. Join me next time. This is chapter 19. I never purposefully take a break from doing this. I just put the book down, and then when I think about picking it back up again, my brain goes, no. I keep also thinking like, oh no, I can't wait too long or else I'll forget what happened. And then I'm like, it's okay, Maddie. Nothing has happened. And I feel better. All right, so we are picking up chapter 19 right where we left off 1 second ago in chapter 18. And that is basically that Hunt and Bryce have gone to like the meat market, the underground market, and they have just met the Viper Queen who runs this whole meat market. Bryce looks the Viper Queen up and down and tells her nice outfit. And the Viper Queen like smiles at her and shows all her like teeth and fangs and stuff and compliments Bryce on her bodyguard. The Viper Queen calls Hunt the general, which harkens back to the failed rebellion. The Viper Queen is flanked by 4 females, and Bryce tells us that these are defectors from her father's court. She says, trained assassins in not just weapons, but the Queen's specialty, venoms and poisons. The sentence is pretty tragic. Not only do we have an M dash and a colon all in the same sentence, but the wording of trained assassins in not just weapons, assassins trained in not just weapons, trained assassins and not just weapons, assassins trained. Tragedy. The Viper Queen is basically like, what are you guys doing here? And Bryce plays it cool, like she's just here like bargain hunting, she's just here shopping. But the Viper Queen has heard rumors that Hunt and Bryce have been going around town together. Bryce is like, cool, time to go, but the Fae men won't let her leave, and the Viper Queen is like, let's go to my office, it's time to talk some business. The Viper Queen leads the way, and Hunt is walking pretty close to Bryce, and she says that she could feel the tremor that ran through his powerful body, could have sworn lightning tingled over her spine. I'm endlessly fascinated by the ways that Hunt's lightning is described, so just hold on to that. Hunt is like whispering to Bryce that this is a terrible idea, but Bryce is like pretty self-satisfied because this was her plan all along. If they went through official channels, it would have taken weeks to get an audience with the Viper Queen, but by going to the meat market and buying like this really dangerous black salt, they got her attention anyways, and look at that, they got a meeting all in one day. The Queen is still leading them past some rusty metal doors, and Hunt tells Bryce not to look so satisfied because they could still die here. They could still like not walk out alive. They glower at each other, and then it says, Bryce could have sworn lightning forked across his eyes. Is this gonna become a thing where like Bryce just is like, I could have sworn I saw some lightning? I don't know. This is literally like on the same page where it's like, I could have sworn I felt some tingles on my spine, and now I can swear I see like lightning crackling in his eyes. They reach some other doors, and behind the door is a really messy office. Bryce goes on to describe the messy office and the like junky furniture, and one of the Fae guards shuts the door. The Viper Queen knows that Bryce is here to talk about Danica, so she says that Danica was a threat to her in more ways than they probably know, but she was smart and they had a working relationship because, as Hunt probably knows, the shifters and the angels often have to work with the shadowy creatures. Hunt asks about Maximus, the vampire who was killed, and the Viper Queen is like, Maximus was a spoiled little bitch. but I wouldn't kill him because that would be picking a fight with his powerful father. So the Viper Queen says that she had nothing to do with Maximus's death, but she pulled like her people in because she can feel in the air that something's happening in the city. Hunt is prickly about the fact that she didn't warn anybody else, just pulled in her own people. And Hunt's lightning grumbled in the room. Hunt's lightning grumbled in the room. Grumble, grumble, like a lightning flash. Is this actual lightning? Like, is there actual lightning, like, you know, in the middle of their conversation, and does like, is nobody gonna say anything? You know, it's be like, yo, we're in an enclosed space. Like, maybe settle down with that, bro. We're having a conversation. Anyway, the Viper Queen produces a flash drive, and on it she has footage of the night of Danica's murder and the night of Max's murder. On the night of Danica's murder, she was at a drop party that turned into a 3-day orgy. And Hunt is like, you're showing us footage of you at a 3-day orgy? And she's like, yeah, let me know if it gets you hot and bothered. I hear you're one hell of a ride. I literally, so many of these things I would not recap or tell you about, but they have a drink in the middle of them. This is so stupid. And they keep doing this like Haiti flirty thing going on. Like, mostly the Viper Queen is flirting and Hunt is hating. It's very, very boring. The Viper Queen's like, here's a pro tip for your little investigation. And honestly, it ruffles Bryce because it's kind of mocking, but truly they need all of the help that they can get. We're on page 215 and the most that they've done is talk to one person. The tip is look toward where it hurts the most. That's always where the answers are. So, not super useful. The Viper Queen snaps her finger and the office door opens, and she instructs her guards to see Hunt and Bryce out. Hunt nudges Bryce through the door, and as they are leaving, the Viper Queen calls out that Bryce shouldn't underestimate the obsidian salt she bought because it can bring over the very worst of hell. Bryce gets a little chill down her spine, but she just says, well, at least I'll be entertained, won't I? What an edgy queen she is. We shift to Hunt's point of view as they leave the meat market, and he's like, phew, thank God we're leaving alive. He also says that he believes the Viper Queen about not having been the one who killed Danica or Maximus, even though there's no way in hell. He's watching the orgy footage to confirm it. Bryce agrees that she believes the Viper Queen. Hunt says that they're back at square one, but Bryce is like, not really, because we got that super good tip about looking where it hurts the most. Hunt thinks that's just some bullshit to mess with us, but it's not. It's so non-specific. Like, how is that going to mess with them? Whatever. Let's keep moving. We're trying to get through these, right? Bryce puts on her helmet because she gets on her scooter and she flicks up her visor, revealing her amber eyes, and says that even if the Viper Queen was trying to mess with them, maybe she was unintentionally right. Tomorrow, ... her eyes shuttered. I've got to do some thinking tomorrow. I love that her eyes like shuttered. Right? So, okay, they closed or whatever. The whole thing with shuddering is like not wanting to like show or express emotions. But like the thing after it is that she's got to do some thinking tomorrow. So I love that this is like really weighing on her. This is really heavy for her. She's like, I gotta do some thinking tomorrow. You know, it pains me too, Bryce, to watch you do some thinking. I feel you. Hunt asks what Bryce is going to do with the obsidian salt, and she sasses that she's going to season her burgers with it. Hunt asks how she afforded the salt, and Bryce says that she put it on Jezebel's account. Hunt has no reply to that. So he just says that riding a scooter is a dumb thing to do before she's made the drop because she's still mortal. She goes, thanks, Mom. When he suggests that she should take the bus, she just laughs and zooms away. That was 8 pages, 9 M dashes, 6 doors, 3 hells, and 1 special colored eyes. I showed that other M dash that really bothered me, but here's what I will crown my least favorite M dash of the chapter. The serpentine shifter smiled, revealing bright white teeth and canines that were slightly too elongated. Why? Why? Someone explain why. In the absence of valid explanations, tune in next time for chapter 20. This is chapter 20. Today's fortifying beverage is a nice coffee. It is still, you know, daytime, so we're not drinking, which seems really responsible of me, but also this is my second one We start with the chapter with Bryce in the gallery, and she's thinking about the hot tip that the Viper Queen gave her to look toward where it hurts the most. Bryce thinks that she didn't tell Hunt how accurate this tip had been, mainly because she's already given him the list of suspects, but she hasn't compiled the list of Danica's last movements because she can't make herself think back to those memories. Instead of doing that now, she starts going through emails with Maximus to see if there are any hints there or any connections that she can find between Maximus and Danica. But even as she's trying to distract herself this way, the memories from Danica's last days clawed at the welded shut door of her mind. I love that not only are we just mentioning every physical door that they ever come across, but now we've got metaphorical doors. Amazing. Lahaba wants Bryce to invite Hunt in because she thinks that he's dreamy. Bryce's response to that is, yeah, just ask him, which is really strange to me because I would not, that's not how I would characterize Hunt. There is some pride there, but I think it's mostly due to his skill. He is a very accomplished and skilled fighter and murderer, and so that's been the majority of the looking down his nose at people that we've seen. I just don't think he's dreamy, yeah, just ask him about it thing fits. Anyways, they keep up this banter about the show that Lahaba's watching, which is basically porn with a plot. Bryce calls it Fangs and Bangs. And then Bryce starts poking fun at Lahaba because she's got this crush on Hunt, but he's huge and she's a tiny fire sprite. The phone rings and interrupts them, and so Bryce is worried that Hunt heard them. But actually it's just Jezebel, and she's calling about actual work things. We jump forward after the phone call and Bryce is staring at the shut front door. Bryce is listening to the ticking of the clock and thinking about how each second is a lost second where Danica and the Pax killers roam the streets. That's what I've been saying all along. I just think it's really funny that all of a sudden that's Bryce's position. But, that's the spirit. Let's get this party started. Let's get this ball rolling. Bryce thinks this waste of time is unacceptable, yet the thought of prying open the door to those memories, so another metaphorical door, Bryce has an idea that she thinks is 10 kinds of stupid, but she hurries up and picks up the phone and dials a number before she can second guess. And of course, she's calling Hunt. Hunt assumes something is wrong because Bryce never calls him, and Bryce admits that she just needs his help with something. So he immediately flies down and starts banging on the door. Bryce opens the door. Hunt asks if she's going to give him shit about coming inside or if they can just skip all that. So Bryce tells him to just get inside and steps in, leaving Hunt in the doorway. Bryce heads to her desk and pulls out some alcohol and starts drinking straight from the bottle. Hunt shuts the door, comments on her day drinking, and then asks if she's going to tell him what all of this is about. That's when they hear some knocking coming from the iron door, and it's Lahaba who starts talking through the door, asking if Bryce is all right. Bryce says that she's fine and tells Lahaba to get back to her work, but she won't. So she tells Hunt that if they go downstairs together, he is sworn to secrecy. He can't even tell Micah. And she tells us in a bit of an info dump that the library downstairs is super top secret because there are things down there that people would kill for. Hunt agrees to keep it all secret. So Bryce turns towards the iron door, muttering that this is basically Lahaba's birthday present. The iron door opens and they head downstairs where they are met by Lahaba. Hunt calls her beautiful, which makes her incredibly happy. And as Bryce sees Hunt being kind to Lahaba, she admits to herself that maybe Lahaba has a point about Hunt's good looks. Hunt looks around at all of the tanks and books and also Syrinx's downstairs, and Lahaba tells Hunt that even though Bryce pretends to be mean, she's actually a softie, which is proven by the fact that she bought Syrinx. Bryce even bought Syrinx's freedom, so he's no longer a slave. Lahaba asks Hunt how much it costs to buy him, and she calls him Athy. Bryce tells her that it's rude to ask his slave price and also tells her not to call him Athy, but Lahaba says that they are both in the same house and they are both slaves. So Lahaba says that she can ask, and they have this whole conversation about slavery with the man of color. So far as he's described with his brown skin, I haven't really said much about how her brown man in the story is a slave. But Every so often I'm reminded of this fact, like as they stand around and talk about their slave prices, I am reminded. Hunt wonders how Bryce afforded to pay for Syrinx, and she says that she got an employee discount and she came up with an arrangement with Jessica. Hunt assumed that Bryce was loaded because of her fancy apartment, but Bryce finally tells him that it was Danica's apartment, and this brings us back around to the one clue slash motivational phrase that they have, which is the Viper Queen saying, look toward where it hurts the most. Bryce says that the Viper Queen could go to hell with her pro tips. There's more like banter about the show that Lahaba watches, which Hunt also calls Fangs and Bangs, and then it's funny because that's exactly what Bryce called it, ha ha ha. Then Lahaba announces that she's going to nap, and that goes on for like a whole page. Then one of the books starts like acting up, so Lahaba yells at it, and then finally we get to the point where Bryce says that she invited Hunt here to help her jog her memory. Hunt takes a moment and like surveys the room. He looks at the books, the tanks, the door to the bathroom, and instead of diving right into asking about Danica, he asks Bryce about what she studied in school and how she got the job with Jessica. Bryce asks Hunt how old he is, and he's 233, and she does some quick math and realizes that the rebellion was 200 years ago, making him relatively young to have led a legion at that point. Hunt raises his hand and his lightning is writhing around his fingers. You guys know how I'm becoming obsessed with all of the little ways that his lightning is described. So now we've got lightning writhing around his fingers. Anyways, Hunt says that his gifts make him invaluable to people because he's too good at killing. Hunt asks her if she's ever killed anyone, and she says yes, which surprises him. Bryce doesn't want to talk about it though, what happened with Danica's senior year that had left them both in the hospital. Lahaba pipes up again and says that she's wanted to know about this for years, but Bryce never tells her. As Hunt is watching all of these emotions play over Bryce's face, he finally asks her to tell him one happy memory that she has with Danica from the last week of her life. Bryce tells him about the tattoos they got when they were drunk, and after she shares the memory, Hunt has her write it down on the paper. Hunt asks her what they did the day before the tattoos, and in this way he gets Bryce to continue just to write out all of the memories she has, like page after page. When she hits a wall, she says that they can stop for the day, and it seems like Hunt might press her, but then she gets a notification from her phone, and it's a text message from Rune that says, meet me at Luna's temple in 30 minutes. Bryce asks why, and he says because it's one of the few places in the city without cameras. Bryce asks Hunt if she should give Rune a heads up that Hunt is coming with her, and Hunt grins and says, hell no, and Bryce grins back. This is starting to show like the thawing of their relationship, right? She finally admits that, okay, maybe the handsome, tall, dangerous angel is handsome, and also like she asked him for help, and now they're like grinning at each other and they shared an inside joke. And all of that would actually be really satisfying to me as a reader if I had any understanding of why they hated each other in the first place, especially to the degree that they did. I totally understand if they like rubbed each other the wrong way, they had assumptions about each other, which I think is part of it, but a lot of like the antagonism between them is completely unearned, and it's fighting against the plot. The fact that Bryce is sitting here like, I can't waste time, when all she's been doing is wasting time, particularly with this like unfounded hate towards Hunt. So to see them now like, okay, maybe we're okay, I'm like, boo. My least favorite M dash of the chapter is Hunt's brows twitch toward each other, even as his lips tugged outward. Cool pause, bro. Also, great description. Not at all awkward. I hope that looked as cool as it felt.